Good morning, everyone. It's Monday, and hope you guys all had a great Easter. And today what we're going to do is we are going to be looking at footwear impression evidence. So, usually when we look at a crime scene, as you guys are going to read this week with your lab and your notes, when we look at a crime scene, one of the things that we can take or issue a warrant for is footwear, especially if we've found an impression outside or somewhere where the person maybe stepped. It might be inside, it may have been a disruption of dust. There are all kinds of ways that we can lift these types of prints if it's just been the dust moved. We can do things with foam to get the impression to match. So today we're going to talk about doing a print and doing a mold, a cast mold. And then tomorrow we'll come back and I'll show you guys what your cast molds look like. So I grabbed a couple of different kinds of shoes that I have. So my K-Swiss has a really distinctive deep pattern on it, so I'll be using that to do one of my shoes. And then I will be using the bottom of my Van. So I have two different shoes that should be able to give you a pretty good impression. Normally I would put them on and videotape that, but today what I'm going to do is I'm just going to have it up here so that you guys can see. This stuff, if you look really carefully, this stuff is called biofoam. So biofoam, and I am sure you guys will be very sad because this stuff is really kind of fun to push. Everybody likes to push it and smush it. This is a type of foam that's used to do impression evidence. Again, the company is called Biofoam. You can order it from any of your major, any of the major forensics suppliers like Searchy or Tritech. And this would be the professional grade that you would use if you were going to make a cast and a mold. So, what I've done today is I've gotten together the ingredients for you to do this, and then you guys will get to see the end part as well. So I'm going to take my shoe, and again, because I don't want to have to flip the camera around so much, I'm going to take the shoe, I'm going to take, on this side, I'm going to put it in my K-Swiss. So the way that you would do this is that you would put it on top, and again, what I usually have you guys do is step, but today, I'm just going to press in to get my impression, okay? So, I put my impression in like that. Then I'm going to lift it out. I'm going to do the same thing over here with my Van. Again, why I want to do this is when we walk, we make unique patterns and unique wear patterns on our shoes. Maybe it's because we are picking up dirt, dust, debris, and it gets jammed in there. Maybe it's because we kind of wear the shoe down in certain spots. Certain spots will be more worn down than others. And that'll give us an idea of stripe patterns. So if you look, you can see how mine are a little wore right here, which tells you that's where the primary stripe of my foot is. More importantly, I have an issue with how I walk, so I usually my feet lean in a little bit. So if you look at the bottom of my shoe, you can see that there are like places where the heel has worn down. Now, these are a newer pair of shoes, my Vans, so what I am going to do is leave this little pebble in there so that you guys can see what that does when you make the impression. So now, if we were doing this and we did this, we would then take the pebble out and the debris out and observe it. So again, well actually I think I will take it out today. So again, I would take this out with tweezers, not with my fingers, but today we're just going to make do. And I would then send that off. I package it as evidence, send it off, and then we would look at the debris that was found inside of the shoe. Again, we would document where it was on the shoe and when we collected the shoe and everything like that. So on this side, I'm going to make my Vans impression. So I have my shoe there. I'm going to push down to get a good impression. Again, this is a little easier when I have it on the top, but there's our impression of our Van. So now, if you take a look at my foam, you guys can see that there is an impression of that shoe and an impression of that shoe that we're going to work with, okay? So the next thing that we do Now, if you're gonna make molds in the lab, there are two ways you can do it. The more formalized way would be to use dental stone, and you take it and you make it into the same stuff that we're making here. Today we are using just some plaster of Paris, and that is this kind of plaster of Paris. And we are going to pour it into the molds to allow it to dry. So what I've done here is I had a plastic bag, and I've mashed it up so that this stuff is the consistency of about pancake batter. So you add your water slowly so that you get the consistency of about pancake batter. The bigger the mold, the bigger the amount of stuff you need to pour. I have two different shoes, I have two different molds, so I'm going to take a look. Again, you would do a pair of shoes if you did this, but I wanted to show you different tread marks and stuff like that. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to smooth this down so that all of it is in 1/4 of the bag. Kind of like what chefs do with pastry bags. When we did our strawberry DNA, this is similar to what we did when we did our strawberry DNA. Then I'm going to cut the tip off and allow the mold to pour. Okay, and that was a little sloppy, but that's okay. So we're going to push the mold. We're going to make sure that all of this is in here and that it's all smoothed out. Okay, so there is our mold. Now, the other thing is when you do this professionally, they make kits that come with the foam and come with a sort of break and shake type of powder, and it has the water already in it. You break the water packet inside of it, you smush it up, it's already pre-measured for you, and then you pour it into your mold. So for our sake though, for the fact that we would normally be doing this in the classroom, I would normally have a ton of you doing this particular lab, and we're just trying to save on materials a little bit. We just do with the lovely plaster of Paris. So again, I'm going to cut. I'm going to try to make my cut a little bit smaller this time. And then you're just going to squeeze it out and roll it into your mold. Again, if you need more, you would make more. It looks like I'm going to be all right with what I've made. So now, as you can see, this is a little bit lumpy right now. You guys use plastic knives. Today we're going to use a metal knife just because that's what I've got at my house. You can run it over it and smooth it out and make sure that all of your lumps and your bumps are all spread out nice. It's kind of like making icing in that respect. Again, I kind of liken these whole processes to sort of like what you do when you bake cakes. So this process, again, I'm pouring it over and I'm smoothing it out on the top just to get the impression smooth. If you're doing this and you see any holes in this, like you can see the blue and you know it's because it goes all the way through, you want to make sure that you make some more and pour up the mold, okay? So now that we've got our molds, all we're going to do is leave those to sit. So these are going to go back on my table. Okay, and they are going to sit overnight. Plaster of Paris usually needs at least 24 hours to set up, so we're going to leave those there. They'll set overnight, and then I'll show you guys the results tomorrow. The other thing I wanted to show you guys has to do with making an ink impression. So this is what we call the Easy ID stainless footwear impression kit. So these come with a bunch of stuff. So you should have a little pad in here that's like kind of pink. They tear off. You should have the impression ink. So when I do this, I always start out with fresh ink so that I can make sure that I've got what I need. And when you do this, you're going to take and open up this and you're going to pour it onto the pad because you need it on the pad. So when you pour it on the pad, you want it to absorb all the way down through the pad, okay? You may even want to pick up the pad and kind of flip it over itself so that it gets wet on all the spots, okay? You want to make it nice and consistent so it's nice and consistent all the way through. If you need 2 of these, then you do 2 of these, okay? And then this one I'm actually going to have to step on, but I'm going to show you guys how the impression report looks. This is what the impression report looks like, and this is what you would fill out. The other side of this paper is reactive to the ink in the impression ink. So I'm going to show you guys how to do this, but this is what we would fill out to begin with before we would even start. So I'm going to set up for that, and then I'll show you guys what that looks like. Okay, teachers, this is how I normally would set this up, and kids, this is normally what you'd be doing in my class for this. So we would take our shoe, and we would make sure that you get it good and inky. So you're going to rub it in there really good. Make sure you get the toe of the shoe. Make sure you get the heel of the shoe. Okay? So we make sure that we get all the ink that we need on the shoe. Then what I do is I always have the box here, and then I step forward, and then I have everybody step heel to toe and lift. Okay? Then I have the paper towel because sometimes the ink does get on your shoes a little bit, so you want to have your paper towel to wipe your shoe off. So this was our K-Swiss, and again I've labeled it on the back already. We'll go ahead and do our band so that we can do a comparison. So I have my band shoe. Now the other thing about this, teachers, if you decide you want to do this, this stuff smells pretty strong. So just make sure that you keep the box and everything together. Again, you want to make sure that you take special care to get the toe and the heel, get everything really nice and inked, because this is that kind of invisible ink. And then you're going to do the same thing. Step forward, go heel to toe, step forward, and that should give you a pretty good impression. Okay? So, now that we've got both of our impressions, you guys can take a look at it. Is our band, and as you can see, as the oxygen hits it, it makes it much more detailed, and you can see some of the wear pattern, especially around the heel. You would look at the heel. And then back here, this is our K-Swiss shoe. Again, looking at the heel to see differentiation and the marks on it. Okay? Now, I'm going to be sending you other stuff that you guys have to do in order to complete this lab. So, do your best, fill it all out. Tomorrow I'll shoot the hardened pieces so that you guys can see what the impressions look like when they're made into a cast and a mold. Okay? So, have a great day, and see you soon. Okay guys, so if you remember in our last video, we made these lovely footwear impressions. So today what we're going to do is I'm going to show you guys how you would clean off the footwear impressions. So remember, this is our biofoam. Remember, it's really squishy and it's all good, and everybody likes to do this when we get it out. And I have a bucket down here with a trash bag because this stuff kind of gets a little messy when you're trying to take it off. But the first thing we do is we crack off all of the foam that we possibly can in big chunks, because you want to try to get it off in big chunks first, because that's a little easier to deal with. So, and then we use our hand, we kind of go over it. I usually just use my hand. Again, you know I'm not wearing gloves today. Biofoam, I usually don't, because I don't really worry about my hands touching stuff. If I was in a forensics lab for real, I would wear gloves. Then what we're going to do is we're going to take your common scrub brush, so just something that you have, like usually you'd have it to wash the car or something, like do the tires, and then you're just going to gently work the scrub brush around. And I know we're a little bit on a mask shortage right now, but you can wear a mask when you do this if the dust gets in your way and you really don't like it. So we'll go through We clean up the first one, and now we've got, and again, as you can see, I'm doing this, actually, we're live via my garage, so, if you notice, as I'm cleaning this off, you want to do it someplace where you can clean it up. Inside is not always the best place to do this because it makes a lot of dust and dirt. So as you can see, this is our first impression that we did. This was my Van shoe that I got. Now the next one was our K-Swiss shoe. I actually have them on right now. And I know you guys can see these little pieces, white pieces falling off. The white pieces that are falling off are the pieces that just were excess pieces. They had nothing to do with actually the entire print. So I'm just going to smooth off. Again, I'm going to use my hands gently and pop off as much as the chunks as I can because it'll make it easier to clean. So we're going to do this. I flip it over. Now, like I said before, I did this with plaster of Paris. There are kits that are available from Tritech Forensics, Searchy, other places where you can get the kit already pre-made with a water packet in it, so that all you would have to do is snap the packet and pour it into the mold. There are also mold sets. If you notice, this box had the foam in it, but there are little sets that you can get that make that little rectangle for you to pour in, so that if you're out in an area where there is dirt, debris, stuff like that, you can get the impression from the dirt, pull it back up, clean it all off, and it should give you a good impression. These ones are pretty easy to look at, which is why I chose to do it this way, because these ones you can actually clean up pretty good. And again, I got these scrub brushes from the dollar store. It's nothing fancy, no high technology with this. Now, if you were doing this in a forensics lab, you may want to be a little more careful with how you scrub out all of the dust. You may want to make sure that you're using a different style of brush or a sterile brush, depending on what your need be. And again, usually in forensics, we wear gloves. Today, though, just for this demonstration, I figured we didn't really need to wear gloves. So, just getting the basics off. This is our K-Swiss. And this one actually turned out pretty good, too. So we can see that there was something embedded in the footwear right there. So see how this little piece filled in? I did that on purpose. I left that there so that it would leave a little indent in the footprint. You can see how there is a cut in the rubber right there. So this one leaves a very distinctive cut in the rubber mark. You can also see that the brand identification is there and it's very visible. And then the other part, I'm gonna give her another good clean here. The other part I always look at that I think is important is at the bottom of the footwear. So like if you look at the bottom of the footwear, you can see wear patterns where maybe one side is a little more worn than the other. There's also this little special treading right here which shows that there was something actually blocked in here too. So again, if I went to collect this footwear, I would want to ask the person to see them, and before I actually did anything, I would want to examine, take pictures, include those pictures so that I can show what was going on. Then you can see the toe part. So now I've got 2 completed footwear impressions. Again, it's a pair of shoes. Boom. This would be a pretty this would be a pretty weird pair of shoes. We've got the Van here. Looking at the Vans, you can see the very distinctive patterns that are in these Vans and the little shapes that they make. Since these were a pretty new shoe and haven't been worn a lot, there isn't a lot of detail in this. These shoes I've had a little longer and I've worn them a little longer, but they still gave good detail, and I showed you some of the things that they can do. So there's your 2 footwear impressions. That's what it looks like. And that's what it looks like when we make a cast and a mold and then clean it up. And now we've got our shoes that are made of plaster of Paris. So I'm going to put up the video, or put up the quiz that goes along with this, or the worksheet that goes along with this, so that you guys can, it's not a quiz, it's a worksheet, so that you guys can see it and finish up this lab, and then we will move on to our next thing. So, have a great day.